Hello, guys. It's me, your friend Countess. I hope all of you are doing well out there, wherever you are in the world. Yeah, it's exciting. I've had this whole week off for the holidays. I hope some of you have gotten to relax and take a load off as well for the holiday season because it was nuts. It really was nuts. It was nuts for me. And yeah. So, but I've been able to push out more videos lately, and I'm pretty happy about that because it's a lot of fun for me. I am a nerd, and I like to dig around and kind of look in weird places of the internet and wherever. And I enjoy it in making these videos and interacting with you guys. I am actually looking into partnering with one of my subscribers, Flame Red Cat. Hello, Cat. She has a lot of good information and information that I may use to do a tarot reading on. So that'll be coming in the near future. We'll see how, the progress goes as I get back into work and all of that. But I really want to share Kat's work with you guys and do the tarot read for the questions that she has from the research that she's done. Very fascinating stuff. So heads up for that. Tonight I am going to do another analysis of the lyrics, Paul McCartney's The Lyrics, and the memoirs of Billy Shears, our most favorite book by Mr. Thomas E. U. Harriot. We're going to look at the long and winding road that leads to your heart. Oops, my mic, sorry. Will never disappear. I like his accent in that song. It's fun to kind of sing along. But singing aside, my tone deafness, sorry guys. I want to read you guys the explanation that Billy gives us in his lyrics about that song versus the story that we're told in the memoirs about the long and winding road, because this song in particular in the memoirs is, to me, one of the most sentimental songs that Billy wrote as sort of an ode to Paul, and I think it's a beautiful song. And I find these two versions of, the explanation quite intriguing. And as always, I want to share it with you guys. So sit back, grab a drink, and I hope you enjoy looking at the lyrics and the memoirs and getting both sides of the story. So it makes the whole story, right? We're involving alchemy here, the dualism is no more. We'll have the full story about the song and we'll be good to go. So anyways, guys, I wish you a very happy New Year's. I hope you have a fun, safe, and exciting New Year's Eve. If you're out, be safe. If you stay in like me, I'll probably be in bed by the time 2023 rolls around. But then we are in an official countdown, guys. Only a month and a half left. So tick tock, tick tock. We're going to keep an eye on that especially. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoy this analysis and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys. All right, guys. Well, We are going to start off this evening looking at the memoirs version of The Long and Winding Road. In memoirs, it is chapter 58, and that is on page 509. And the numerology of the chapter, 5 plus 8 equals 13. And 13 is a very significant number, guys. It is the number of karma. It can symbolize good luck and good fortune. But in relation to the tarot, the 13th card is death. And so 13 is also looked at as the number of death and rebirth. So that's like a theme to keep in mind as we roll through this chapter. So this chapter is quite long. I am going to go through the pages and I will read the word stacking, the emboldened words, but I have also blurred out quite a bit of the other passages just because, again, copyright stuff. I don't want to give away too much of the book, but I just want to focus on certain passages that I find interesting in this chapter. So we will start on 509 with the emboldened words. Starts, Paul's sad for me. I might just keep you on a deeper level. Do not get distracted by dead Paul aspects in this song. Just understand that pain and you will never feel the same. It will change you. Okay, again, the number 13 stands for a new beginning and change. Death brings on a new beginning and a new change in the situation. Just something to keep in mind. So if we flip the next page, we're going to look at the emboldened words first, and then I will read the bits that I have underlined here. So the emboldened words start, tears were shed by Paul's bandmates. William was my life. I was on my farm. I am shadows. I am the new Paul. Okay, and then we're going to start on the second paragraph on this page. And it goes, my state of mind when I wrote this song was about feeling lonely and disconnected from all that ever mattered to me. With Paul's death, I lost my own past. You are right if you think that trading my pathetic life for Paul's was a good deal for me. Of course it was. Paul's life was better than my own. In my life as William, I was not as successful. Still, it was my life. You may be rather surprised to discover how much that matters. I was. The earlier roles I played did not take over. And then it goes down. So I was living, I decided to clear my head out on my farm in Scotland. I love the piece of my Celtic heritage that I feel there. My family heritage, not McCartney's. I love that escape. I feel allowed to be myself there. There is space there where I can pause to think and organize those thoughts. It is where I can still feel and hear whatever is inside of me. And I find this very interesting. that he mentions, feeling his Celtic heritage. But it's not the McCartney Celtic heritage, guys. And this goes back to the standing stone. You can look at the video that I posted a couple weeks ago about the standing stone and his explanation about, the connection of the Celtic heritage he felt in these monolithic stones. Yeah, so ties in, definitely does. Okay, so, and then you can look at the numerology on this page too. 5 plus 1 plus 0 equals 6. And what is 6? Billy. So, yeah. Let's go over to the next page, 511. And that numerology is 5 plus 1 plus 1 equals 7. And 7 is a perfect divine number. It is the number that represents the divine. So we start off at the top of the page. I felt the way I imagine Richard Cory had felt, with all of the glamour, wealth, and grace that came with his role. Everyone envied him. They wished they could be him. I too had wished I could be Paul McCartney, and I was told I would be. That's eerie. Richard Cory, however, always tried to connect to people, but never could because he, after all, was that big celebrity. He was nice to people, very generous, in fact, yet when he would say hello, their pulses would flutter. And here Bill is referring to a poem by Edwin Arlington Robinson called Richard Cory. Here is the poem. If you guys want to pause the screen and take a look at it, it is very beautiful and very sad as well. But just to save time, I will not go over it. Okay, so let's look down a little while into the next paragraph. In that most insightful poem by Edwin Arlington Robinson, everybody wanted to be him, but no one had any idea of the heavy burdens laid on him until he finally shot his brains out. I have felt that same intense pain as have too many other celebrities. Let's look at the word stacking, emboldened words. I could be Richard Cory to people. I could not have people whose hearts flutter. I began intense isolation to understand Paul. All right, so let's go to the next page, 512. And that numerology, 5 plus 1 plus 2 equals 8. 8 is a number that actually stands for infinity. Again, kind of like the karmic cycle. Everything is connected to everything. So it's like you think of the infinity sign. That is number 8. So let's look. He says something very interesting on this page. I don't want to read the whole thing, but the first top, I'm going to, from 511 at the bottom, he says, you can hear it on Wings Over America and see how I inserted John Denver's name decades before his death. Now many people, but not my angels, call it a suicide. What? Not your angels. So, Again, wording that means something, but something to Billy. I don't know. Now I want to know who his angels are. Paul, I guess, is one of them. Anyways, let's go on to the word stacking. It says, even fame and fortune no longer had my own interests. Our challenges may not have all the glitter of other celebrities. Okay, and then to the next page, we are doing 513. 5 plus 1 plus 3 equals 9. 9 stands for Mr. McCartney. All right, so the second paragraph begins by the challenges of their life situations. They all held their problems in higher importance than their own lives. By identifying with their own hardships, each of them disidentified with who they really are at the core. Suicide is an identity crisis. They each substituted who they are for whatever problems were at hand. That is why they attacked themselves instead of dealing with their situations. And he's talking about all of the celebrities who have committed suicide or died by accidental drug overdoses, like the 27 Club, basically. Looking on blindly, we may think, I wish I could be Richard Cory. Undaunted even by him killing himself. Like distant green hills, other situations may always look better than our own. This I know. Trading lives with another is a recipe for anguish, even with those who have it all. That about sums up the worst of the turmoil I felt on my Scotland farm in the winter of 1970. Wow. Okay, so let's look at the word stacking. Richard Cory always lives with the worst of turmoil. I was Paul. I had the departed Paul's work. All right, and now we get to 514. Okay, and so with that numerology, 5 plus 1 plus 4, you get 10. And 10 is a number that represents completion, full completion, success, prosperity, contentment, all of that stuff. Let's go down to the third paragraph. Using the door in the song, The Long and Winding Road, using the door symbolically, the part represents the whole. It stands for an entire house. On the level you have likely already understood, I use the door in this song to represent the unwelcoming home of an unrequited love. It is a melancholic song of feeling pain from attempting to get love, but of being unsuccessful. The persona in the song loved a girl for years, but she, far from my loving Linda, did not love him in return. In Paul context, after years, I was still unfulfilled. Each of my bandmates turned against me. When they united against me, I needed to divorce the Beatles. Feeling that my Beatle life was unbearable on one hand, but keeping extraordinarily committed to it in the other. Duality. I kept returning in my mind to our point of change, similar to a couple who might recall their marriage while contemplating a divorce. Okay, so let's look at the word stacking on page 514. Yes, this chapter is long, guys. I'm trying to get through it as fast as I can. Okay, so it seemed like Paul moving me deeper into self-deception from imagination. I felt alone, one of those people who gained the world as I understood it. Paul's door stands for an entire house. I kept returning to our point of change. Okay, let's go over here to 515. And that numerology is 11. 5 plus 1 plus 5 is 11. And again, 11 is the number of power and divine ruling, basically. Power over people and principalities. And yeah, it is. And it can stand for dualism because you have the two, the way it's written, 11. Anyways, so let's continue up at the top of the page. I always went back to Paul's crash, entering the door into his life, just as I literally entered his nice home and made it mine. I had left my soul behind somewhere. I had gained the world and lost my soul. Now I needed to reclaim it. The long and winding road on which Paul died leads to death's door, or portal, into his new life. The transmigration of his soul, right? And thus into mine. That road will never disappear. The change is as permanent as is Paul's own death. Nothing can change it. I've seen that road before, time after time, driving on it literally, but mostly driving it to Paul's death mentally. All that we do and sing always points to Paul and him decapitated. Jeez Louise. That's just like a horrible mental picture. And sing always, okay, and it always leads me here to my life's turning point. It always leads me back to Paul's door, to immortality. Wow. Let's look at the word stacking. I always went back to the door into his life. I needed winding. Paul's death points here. Paul should be nowhere, and I am still him. All right, so let's go over to 516. And this numerology, yes, 5 plus 1 plus 6, you get 2 sixes. 6 plus 6 equals 12. And then you can also do 1 plus 2 equals 3. So there you get your reducing to 3, the most perfect number. Okay, second paragraph. Many times I've been alone and many times I've cried. Speaks to the painful loneliness that had engulfed me since Paul left on that road. Anyway, you'll never know the many ways I've tried, and still they lead me back to the long, winding road. Paul left me standing in for him, for me to go down his own life's long, long road for him. A long, long, long time ago, needing to connect with Paul over my concerns about a possible beetle divorce, I asked him to meet me at death's door. I could not dwell with the spirits and Paul could not come back as among the living, but we could meet at the door, or portal, separating life from death. We are, as it were, talking through a veil. Wow, that is just beautiful and also really creepy all at the same time. The word stacking. I've been to the painful loneliness on that road many ways. For him, for me to connect with Paul, I could come meet death through a veil. Paul has left a puddle. Okay, let's go to 517. 5 plus 1 plus 7 equals 13. Again, the number of fortune, death, and new beginnings. My last line, I added to honor Paul's lyrics. I had been critical of his writing. I had often mocked the early Beatles sound. Still do sometimes, but try not to. I thought their juvenile lyrics were pathetic. Goodness. Tell it like it is, Billy. You can go down to the last paragraph. By that, what I mean is that I am he who eventually became the artist who had written them. I am Paul McCartney. Those silly love songs led him right down that road of life that he crashed on to me. Paul followed his life's music to his own dead end, passing through the door to eternity, leaving me standing in for him on this other side of the road. By letting that imagery go on, you can see me knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. The Bob Dylan song. Okay, goodness, we're getting through it, guys. The next page is 518. Okay, so 5 plus 1 is 6, plus 8 is 14. Then 1 plus 4 is 5. So 5 is a number that is related to like adaptability, a major life change. It can represent freedom, but I really do find it fascinating, the number 5, adaptability, because it's like a fight, you're like in tarot. It's always a struggle of some sort to come, beat an obstacle. So down towards the bottom of the page, the change in music shows that I am not the same Paul, and that I do not sound happy about it. Although my answer was in the affirmative, the breakup was not the sort of thing that brought me comfort. While I left a yes answer, a yeah, it was not a joyful one. I would dissolve my band. Dissolve. Always using those words. Solve et coagula. Solve, to dissolve. He uses that word quite often. Let's look at the word stacking. I am waiting for his yeah. Yes, of course, they needed a Beatle. I am not happy about it. I would dissolve my band, but would still go on just as Paul. All right, so we're going to go to 519. So 5 plus 1 plus 9, equals 15. 1 plus 5 equals 6. Pardon me. Billy's number again. And so, so the significance of the number 6, according to the Pythagoreans, it is the first divine number, the first perfect number above 3. It is a number that represents high standards, kind of like reaching for the stars. So it definitely fits with Bill's persona, for sure. Okay, so second paragraph. When I wrote The Long and Winding Road, the song magically came together for me. I'm sure it did. And after I had given all of these things serious thought, as I sat down at my piano in Scotland. Okay, so then it's like the song just magically came together for him. Remember that point, folks. Let's look at the word stacking. The inspiration focused my weeping emotion in music. It flowed out sound. It was simple. I would have a warm, live, simple, natural sound. Let it be. Get a piano up there. Okay, and then I'm going to skip 520 and 521. They're of no significance. And we're trying to get through this. These are the last 2 pages. So 522. Yeah, so you get 5 plus 2 plus 2 equals 9. And 9 is McCartney's number. And so 9, again, like in tarot, it represents completion. It's not the full completion. It's like completion so you can initiate the next cycle. It is like the ebb and flow of life's ongoing kind of force, Again, the transmigration of the soul, right? Okay. Top of the page. Double meanings make songs richer. Yes, there you go. The Long and Winding Road, as I said, can be about love or about Paul. In either case, it is about isolation on that long and lonely road. I returned to that idea not too many years ago with its dual meaning in Lonely Road. I sing, don't want to walk that lonely road again. Again, it is about love, but it is also about Paul. 3 years after Linda had died, when I was with Heather, I wrote this song, thinking about how songs still triggered memories of Linda and of how I was with Heather then and would likely be alone again. The song works that way, but not as well as it works for Paul, who is also always on my mind. Very nice that we're on the page that reduces to the number 9, right? Okay, let's go down to the bottom of the page. Then people would ask for the story behind each song, how I wrote it, kind of questions. I very rarely knew the answers. Keep that in mind, folks. This is very important for the lyrics, right? I very rarely knew the answers. Most often, I would just make up something. And then he talks about a day in the life. He says, I was talking about the line, I'd love to turn you on in a day in the life. That line had a dual context, one of sex and the other of drugs. As far as I knew of their songs, the Beatles had never been that direct about either before. But they had been, and John told him. So let's do the word stacking on 522. I was alone again. I realized that the fans wanted Paul. I made Paul's best songs live performance recordings. I was talking about a day of sex. day of sex. Oh, he is a freak, right? I think we've established that in past memoirs analysis. Okay, so the last page is funny enough. 5 plus 2 plus 3, you get 10. The end. And in the end, the love you make is equal to the love you take. Or did I say that backwards? I might have. Let's just see the word stacking on this page. Paul's familiar tunes drove Paul crazy. I felt his wild energy in me. Paul did it fast. I tried to go my own way. Okay, so that was very lengthy. And if you're still with me, thank you for hanging out. We're going to go through what he says in the lyrics. It's very short. And that's why I read the memoirs version first. You go from all of that detail to this story. It's just like anticlimactic. All right, let's take a look at what Bill has to say. And I do find this interesting with the numerology of the actual lyric page. It's the 4 plus, it's 436. So 4 plus 3 plus 6 equals 13. 13 is the card of death and new beginnings. And for this song to begin, the chapter on this song to begin on a page that has that significance in it ties into the memoirs, right? Creepy. Okay, let's do this. From the bedroom window of my farmhouse on the Mull of Kintyre in Argyllshire, I could see a road that twisted away into the distance towards the main road. That's how you got into town. Campbelltown, to be precise. I'd bought High Park Farm back in 1966. It was a very remote retreat, and the farmhouse was virtually derelict, and probably would have stayed that way if Linda hadn't said we should do the place up. It wasn't until 2 years later that the image of this distant, winding road would become fully developed as a song. It was released in 1970, becoming the Beatles' 20th American number one. It was also our last number one. One of the fascinating aspects of this song is that it seems to resonate in very powerful ways. And I found this stuff interesting that I highlighted here. For those who were there at the time, there seems to be a double association of terrific sadness and also a sense of hope, particularly in the assertion that the road that leads to your door will never disappear. That totally ties into what he says in the memoirs, talking about the door, the portal to Paul's, to that, for Paul's soul to transmigrate to Billy. That is so cool to me. All right. Often when I write a song, I do a bit of a disappearing trick myself. For example, I imagine it having been recorded by somebody else. So he says in this case, Ray Charles. As usual, the last thing I'd want to be writing is a Paul McCartney song. What? Let's say that again. As usual, the last thing I'd want to be writing is a Paul McCartney song. This is a strategy for keeping things fresh. Okay, guys. Ooh, again, he is doing the masterful speaking here, right? Oh, okay. That's not me, I don't imagine I'm him, if I imagined that I was that famous guy, my head would blow off or whatever he says. Oh my goodness. Okay. Pretty crazy, right? I had a similar experience when I painted. For years and years, I simply couldn't bring myself to paint, though I liked drawing and had a bit of a talent. I even got a little art prize at school. But the thought of this blank canvas was so daunting that I could never do it. Then I just happened to meet William de Kooning at his studio. Oh, he just happened to meet him at the artist's studio. Bad choice of words there. Sorry. And this is interesting too. He'd given us a little picture, and I took all my courage in my hands and I said, Bill, what is it? Are you asking yourself that, Billy, or are you asking William Kooning? That's the question, right, guys? I don't suppose that's what you would ask an abstract expressionist, but he was a very patient fellow and said, "Oh, I don't know. It looks like a couch." And I realized that all these worries about the significance of what a painting might be about weren't the issue at all. So I went out and bought a load of canvases, paints, brushes, and everything, and proceeded to paint about 500 pictures. 500 pictures. Wow. I imagined that a friend who owned a restaurant had asked me to paint a picture for his alcove. So I could think of a picture I was working on as being for Luigi's alcove. Less pressure. Or when I was blending colors, I was transformed into a certain Mr. Blendini. It was all tricks. It was all tricks. Ooh, all right. In songwriting, I've got similar tricks. In songwriting, I've got similar tricks. In the earliest days, we were pretending to be Buddy Holly. Then we were writing like Motown. Then we were writing like Bob Dylan. There's always someone else you can invoke. You can put on a mask and a cloak as you're writing something, and it takes away a lot of the anxiety. It frees you up. You discover as you get through it that it wasn't a Ray Charles song anyways. It was yours. The song takes on its own character. The road leads not to Campbelltown, but to somewhere you never expected. And that, my friends, is Bill's story in the lyrics about the long and winding road. I just can't help but see all of his, the things he says. There's always someone else you can invoke. I was doing these tricks, and as usual, the last thing I'd want to be writing is a Paul McCartney song. All of these things. I just can't help but laugh because this really does tie into his whole story and memoirs in a way, guys, because he is talking about, in memoirs, this song being about, Paul and Billy meeting and joining, as one. From the transmigration of Paul's soul, they become one being in the universe. And, his explanation in the lyrics is just like, involving being somebody else, like invoking Paul, right? There's always someone else you can invoke. And that's what he said he was doing in the memoirs, was invoking Paul and his crash and how his life came to be a a living personification of Paul McCartney. Wow. So let me know what you guys think about this. I know it was kind of long and a lot of pages to go through, but I find it very, very fascinating. Again, we got the whole story about the songs, and the long and winding road will never look the same. It won't ever disappear. Yes. Anyways, guys, if you would be so kind, if you're here all the way to the end with me, give my video a like, smash that thumbs up, and let me know what you think in the comments, and subscribe to my channel if you want to hear more content like this. I appreciate every single one of you for listening, and I wish you all a very, very happy new year. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.